Everyone. I'm Janet McHenry, and this presentation today is to help you find your writing groove. I've done two other presentations about goal setting and then about planning so as to achieve those goals. Now, with this particular presentation, which is the third of fourth relating to goals, what I want to talk about today is to help you find that specific writing groove that will help you get your work done. Okay. All righty. Should be on the next slide. So I found some really kind of fun quotes about relating to writing. And we see that, some of them here, a goal without a plan is just a wish, essentially. You have this idea, I want to write a book, but without the very specific planning for, without the outlining, without the sense of where you're going and how you're going to meet writers' needs, and then it's just not going to get done. And then Karen Lamb said, a year from now you may wish you had started today. That it's so easy to kind of put our writing on the back burner always. We think in terms of lists of priorities, that it's not all that important, that all the life stuff gets caught up in the way. And so it's hard to get past those kinds of practices, those habits that we have of allowing all those distractions to take priority. And then Tony Robbins wrote, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. That the whole concept of creation is amazing, that we can stare at a screen, and then after a period of time with fingers we can make words go there and actually create something that has value, something that will help someone else. So let's look at 11 different ways then to set goals, to actually achieve goals in such a way that we're finding that writing groove that will work specifically for us. And the first of these writing methods is the idea of deadlines. Okay, so this is going to sound really familiar. This is more project based. So you're setting goals for when the project will get done. And this is for those of us who need a particular push to get out of that sense of procrastination or whatever it might be. So you're picking an actual end date to accomplish your work. And then keeping in mind that the best sense of coherence from the beginning of your book through your book to the end of your book is if you can accomplish that within a certain set period of time, the shorter the better. When you're working on a book for a year, 2 years, you begin to lose sense of what the book itself, the overall message is, how the thematic thread is working all the way through. If you're writing memoir, what happened when you lose that kind of sense. So it's really important to kind of set yourself a realistic and yet time-honored kind of an end due date. So that way you can then go back and you can use math to create a plan as to how many chapters are going to get done or how many words are going to get done. And you can adjust this to your daily schedule and take breaks as you need it. I tend to work on this kind of a methodology in terms of getting work done. If a book is going to be about 12 chapters, I've probably already written 2 during the proposal stage. So I have 10 more chapters to accomplish. And I know that I can create 10 chapters in somewhere, depending on what the book is, somewhere between 10 and 12 weeks. And so I'll tell myself, 10 to 20 weeks. So say with a more involved book that is, it's new content for me, I know that I probably need 1 week to kind of work on the creation, the ideas, studying the Bible and getting all that rich content set up. and then 1 week to write. So 1 week to think, research, get the ideas, get the content, 1 week to actually put the words on the page. So, and then if I'm working on a tighter deadline, say, I'm writing 10 chapters in 10 weeks, then I'll allow myself 2 days to do that idea creation, ideation, they call it, and then 3 days to write. And I just clear the calendar and make sure that nothing else is there. I typically will not write on a Sunday. That is just, it's the Sabbath. It's the day of rest. It's the day I need to, get my head squared on straight again, and the rest of my body needs. And that typically for me actually is Saturday, because Sunday it's a haul, because I'm doing ministry as well at my church, and we're also running a lot of errands and things like that. So your typical daily schedule, and actually what days for you are going to be productive. So this method of having deadlines can be flexible. And that sounds contrary, but you actually can create your own schedule, block out your calendar. I think the one struggle with this might be the tendency to want to to procrastinate the actual beginning of the project. But if you actually put the deadlines for specific chapters or specific word count on your calendar, then I think that is more of an impetus to get it all done. So author Pam Farrell has said that she tries to plot out all of her writing with the time needed, and she marks deadlines. And typically will work several days before, have everything done several days before the actual deadline, when she has to get the book to her publisher. I plan out my schedule in such a way that I'm working 2 to 4 weeks before the actual deadline to the publisher. And I'll actually kind of plan out any kind of PR or marketing kind of work, with giving myself time to create and times to post and when and where and all that as well. So this will work not only for just your writing, but also can work for your marketing and other kinds of publicity that you're working out. I've used a bullet journal to do brainstorming, but I'll take that critical and vital information and put that into my other kind of files that I've got for the various chapters. And then if you're working with a co-author, you can work together to kind of create that schedule for yourself as well. So that's one method, is to work with deadlines. And so the second method will be, we're going to next slide, is to have word goals. So when you're establishing word goals, you're telling yourself how much you will write, how many words or how many chapters, how many scenes that you will write in a day or a week or a month. And so the positive thing with this kind of a writing groove is that that it's easy to measure. You either got it done or you didn't. It provides accountability there, and I think this works well for people who are kind of data driven. They like to be super organized in this way. A disadvantage might be that it doesn't account necessarily for the writing process, which can have its own rhythm depending on who you are and how you think and how you create. One writer said that she sets her goals in terms of how many weeks that she would allow to finish a book, and then she blocks out those writing days. And then she notes where, what days, so she has a sense of what days are not going to be good creative days for her at all. And she sets those deadlines for chapters. And then another writer said that she just works on word count. And this might work for those of you who are writing memoir, or you're writing fiction or children's books. Maybe it's the all important word count as opposed to chapters, which can tend, for nonfiction, it's more thematic in the way it's measured out. So some writers also can, can crank out a whole lot of work if they can get away. I live in such a place that people get away to my house to write. I have a little kind of writing cabin here right at our house. And and I have a beautiful view, and I have no excuses to need to be able to go away somewhere else to write. So that's, just kind of another way to approach this is to work with those word goals, and you could break those down into chapters. But if you're thinking about a nonfiction Christian living book, for example, they're going to probably be 5 parts for that chapter itself. You're going to have an introduction. You're going to probably have 3 main points, or 2 points, or 4 main points within your chapter that you are developing. And then you have the application piece with a charge for the reader. So those break down into easily achievable kinds of goals. You could read the beginning of a chapter one day, and then each of those middle pieces on each of those separate days. So in a week's time, 5 days, you could get a chapter written. It really is achievable. A third way to look at finding a writing groove is to think about the idea of productivity. What time of day, what place, what kind of atmosphere do you actually need to be creative? For example, can you create for you only got like 25 minutes, or as you're looking at your day, realistically you've got 2 hours or 3 hours. Maybe Mondays are just kind of a wash for you because you're dealing with lots of emails relating to your writing and business matters and other things. Or maybe on Mondays you're setting up various posts that you're going to put on social media, those kinds of things. Mondays tend to be kind of a wash for me in terms of creativity because of those other kinds of business needs that I have. So I tend to want to, schedule my writing light on a Monday. If I'm going to write, it's going to be light. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, typically I can kind of pour myself into those days and get a lot of work done. So think about, terms of, what are your body rhythms? What are your clock rhythms, in terms of what's the best time of day for you? Mornings work best for you. Afternoons, that's my groove. Usually lunch, and then I have lunch after I've done business stuff in the morning, and then I can write during the afternoon, and I keep writing. Here's the thing. I keep writing until my assigned work has been accomplished for that day. I don't think, oh gosh, I didn't get very much done today. I just keep working until it's done. And I don't allow social things to creep into the calendar. Believe me, there are many more other kinds of distractions that can creep into my world that make it challenging enough. But I make myself stick to those kinds of situations, of course, unless there's some kind of an emergency. I think this is a healthy way to kind of approach your, as you're seeking your particular writing groove, because you can build in exercise time. You can build in those minutes that you need to do things on social media. You can build in time for, to have lunch with your spouse, whatever that might be, dinner with your spouse, going for a walk or whatever. As you're thinking about what are your best hours to write, save those best, honor those best, save those, schedule them. That's your writing time. So that when someone says, hey, do you want to go to TJ Maxx with me this afternoon? You say, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I've got work I've got to get done during that block. But I could go after dinner with you. I could go in the evening. So if your best writing time is in the morning, guard that. If your best writing is in the evening, guard that. And you can use your phone to actually kind of, give you those kinds of reminders. And the night before I go to bed, I set alarms on my phone for meetings that I have or for even for my writing time. So if my writing time's to begin at 1, I set my alarm for 1 o'clock and I guard that time and I get right to the job. So you might find that with this kind of, when you're working on the concept of productivity, that you might not get the length of work done in the time that you've given yourself. But maybe then if you've scheduled 3 days for writing, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are going to be your productivity days. And so, oh my goodness, Thursday, you didn't meet the deadline, but then you still got Friday or Saturday. So you can kind of make yourself stick to the deadline by scheduling that additional time in there. One writer suggests using the Pomodoro app. That's spelled Pomodoro. And the Pomodoro technique was created by Francesco Cirillo for a more productive way to do work and to study. So this technique uses a timer to break down work into intervals, traditionally 25 minutes in length, separated by short breaks. And each of these intervals is known as a pomodoro, from the Italian word for, get this, tomato, after the tomato shaped kitchen timer that Cirillo used in his as a university student. So what do you do with this? So you can use the timer on your phone and you give yourself 25 minutes on there on your timer, and then you just dig in and you get as much done as you can in those 25 minutes. So ahead of time, you've established what your task is going to be. And if that's to write maybe 2 of the 5 segments in your chapter, then that's going to be your goal for the day. So then you work intensely for those 25 minutes. You don't check your email. You don't check any texts. You turn your phone off, silence your phone, all those kinds of things. And you work really hard for those 25 minutes in a focused manner. And then for 5 minutes, you get a break. So you can go get a glass of water, or you could check your phone. You can answer things there, run to the restroom if you need to. And then when those 5 minutes are up and you've set your timer for 5 minutes again, you're back to your computer to get for the next 25-minute segment, which again you set in a time, on the timer on your phone. So, and with a 5-minute break after that. So that way, even in an hour and a half, 2 hours thing, and if you're focusing on the concept of intensity, productivity here, that could be a really effective technique for you. So you keep going until you get your particular goal. And then if you finish early, you can decide to go back, do a little editing there, or just go on with whatever else you needed to do that day. So a fourth manner, in terms of being able to kind of find our writing groove, is the concept of a timeline. So this is where you're setting a goal of how much you'll write in a measured time frame. And it's a blend of the concept of the deadline and the word count goals. And it sounds like this. So every month, I'm going to write 2 chapters. That's what I'm telling myself. So I'll research for 1 week and then I'll write for 1 week and I'll keep repeating like that. So it's an incremental system that kind of chips away at that overall goal. Again, and that goal could either be the word count or the chapter goal, planned out over weeks of time. It provides some flexibility in terms of, how productive you are, or as things come up that need to be attended to. But you can work on multiple projects at one time using this. You might find that it's kind of easy to overload yourself, and it could produce, a tendency toward procrastination, because if you're working toward that longer goal, all of us can do that, right? Um, if you're putting off monthly, if you're working on a monthly basis, you might wait till like, oh, it's 3 days till the month is up. I better get going. And then you're trying to cram it all out. An author friend of mine is Lynn Hartkey, and she says that she has a large calendar that she uses with sticky notes on it. And she puts this right on her bulletin board, and I've seen this before. She has a large whiteboard in her office, and she uses this for deadlines and commitments that are color coded on them for writing. Got one color for writing, one color for speaking, one color for teaching, one color for church, one color for community and family, so that she can kind of balance those various commitments that she has. And she plots this out for 3 months at a time. So she says she has to see to it to get a grip. She needs that big visual reminder to get a sense of where she's overloaded, where she needs to cut back, where she needs to give herself some white space, and then she can put those kinds of commitments on her phone again, so that she um, even has time for rest in there after she's traveled for speaking or things like that. So she uses this for social media scheduling 1 week at a time. But getting that kind of broad view, 3 months of time, what has to be done. You make a list of what has to be done. You can put it with sticky notes on your calendar or on your whiteboard, in whatever kind of system might work best for you. Okay. The fifth way is to have cyclical goals. These are goals for creating that help to create particular routines. They are repeatable cycles, such as 3 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, or might be like one project one day, another project another day. Um, for example, say you want to write a book, but you also are responsible for creating an audience for that book. So maybe you give yourself 3 full days of writing, and then the other 2 work days of the week, maybe you dedicate one day for, really working up social media kinds of posts and scheduling them, getting them in place. And then another one for uh, perhaps reaching out. Maybe you're trying to get guest blogs, or you're trying to get podcast interviews, things like that, so that you have that regular kind of rhythm, that routine. Okay, so maybe Monday is you're doing matters of different kinds, reaching out to people, answering emails, scheduling things, so forth. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are solid writing days. It's nice to have them all in a block close together. That way you have a sense of, oh, what did I do yesterday? It's kind of easier to move back into if you've done the writing one day, one day, one day, like that in a week. And then, perhaps another day, the Friday, to work on social media posts, scheduling them and having it all ready to go. You don't even have to worry about it, because your scheduler just plop them where they need to go. So this can help you kind of burn out, and it has some built-in breaks there. Sometimes we can get burned down on writing, or we get burned out on all the other things, mechanisms that we need to have in place to build audience and to kind of foster that audience, and providing content for them. So that building your habits, building that routine can really kind of be really important, I think. And you can build in those breaks as part of the goal of itself. And this might work particularly for relational kinds of people. One approach that I have used a lot with in coaching, and I've recommended before, is this carrot approach. You picture the rider, in the buggy, has a long pole with a carrot on the end in front of the horse to keep the horse moving down the road, right? So some of you are very relational people and you love being with people and interacting with them. And so the idea of sitting down alone in an office with no one around you sounds awful and it sounds stifling to your creativity. But eventually, the words have to get down on the page. So the carrot approach makes you create incentives for yourself. Call them bribes. I prefer the term motivation, but I've used this, and we probably all as parents have used this with our children at some point. Well, if you clean your room, then you can go bowling with your friends. So, the room only got cleaned when there was some kind of a carrot down the road for the child to make her be motivated to take care of business. So you can tell yourself, sure, you can go to that party. Yes, self, you can go to that party. Or yes, self, you can go out to lunch with that friend who keeps inviting you. But you have to get chapter one written this week. And then you can go. Okay. Give yourself plenty of time for that and schedule it. But, only allow yourself, that the extra pleasure, whatever it might be, and that might be like rearranging the decor in your house. I don't know what it is. Um, I call it no fun until the work is done. And I really take that seriously for my own kind of writing schedules. So make that carrot something highly desirable for you. Maybe we could call it the carrot cake approach. So you get carrot cake. You get nothing but carrot cake, little buntlet or something like that, because you've finished your chapter that day. So you can use, and I've used a blend of this and the timeline kind of approach. Okay, the seventh thing, this is, and I've taught some of this material before, but then I added some additional material here. I began thinking about like, how about if we did the hard thing first? Because one of the pieces, what I found with my students is that initially, when students came into my classroom, I could pick out the perfectionists because they never got their essay done in the hour and a half that they needed to get it done because they had to make it perfect. They had to have the brilliant idea. So when we do the hard thing first, this can tend to break us of that perfectionistic procrastination that becomes really an inhibitor for our writing process. And it can be boost that sense of productivity, make us get the work done. I think it would also help to defeat that negative self-talk that we might have. For me personally, something that I really, really hate doing is making phone calls. So recently, I set aside one day and I had like six phone calls I had to make. And they were things about like repairing the car or making an overture to someone I needed coaching from and just all kinds of things like that. And so for me, and I did that on a Monday because I decided I wanted the sense of freedom for my week by getting those hard things done, making those phone calls. When we get the hard thing done, then that means, then it's the rest is going to be easier. It'll be like you're knocking that first domino down and the rest are going to fall into place. So it creates momentum and the rest will seem easier. Um, we create to-do lists for ourselves, then we tend to maybe kind of, we got our to-do list and we might want to, we do those easy things first and we cross those out, and that is one other kind of approach I'm going to talk about. But then, and then we tend to put off those hard things and maybe the hard things never get done. And unfortunately, write the book. Write chapter one. That's probably on that to-do list. And that's probably one of the hardest things we have to do. But it's going to only create more stress in your life the more that you put off sitting down and doing that hard work. Um, And if something is too hard, break it down into smaller steps. Instead of telling yourself again that you're going to write chapter 3 today, tell yourself you're going to write the intro to chapter 3, which is anecdotal in nature. And that actually, may be able to kind of spur the rest of the writing along. So, yeah, I think doing the hard thing first might be what really can break some of the roadblocks that you might have mentally in terms of getting the work done. And then the next thing is also to do the easy thing first. And I was thinking like, something that we hear a lot, maybe from the Dave Ramsey people, when you're trying to get out of debt, you pay off your smallest debt first, and then you apply that payment money to the next debt, to the next debt. So that works for them. And perhaps that kind of approach for us could also tend to build momentum if we're doing the easy things first. And what is easy for you? I don't know. For me, that might be outlining, a general outline. It might be finding those guiding pieces of scripture for the different chapters in my book. It also might be that introductory anecdote, because I can come up with a story real quick. And so then that can kind of create a sense of flow that will shift me into doing some of the harder pieces then. So this will build confidence and can build mood, increase your mood about yourself, how you feel about yourself generally as a writer. It can create motivation, like, oh, look at me. I just got the introduction written. Now, now I'm going to tackle this, and it's going to be a little harder, but I can do it. So that dopamine effect can really help us as writers, take advantage of that. And perhaps that's kind of an easy jump start for you. Long term, it could inhibit, it can inhibit that final growth piece, because if we're only doing the easy things, then the hard work of the book, the parts of the book that really require unique, you know, inspiration, unique ideas, that, things that have not been written about before. And so we may tend to procrastinate on those, but it might work it out. And you can use a kind of more of a, like, a balanced between the doing the hard thing first or the easy thing first. Maybe you have a stack it kind of a methodology that you could put into place where you do one or two easy things, okay, and then tackle a hard one, and then go back, okay, what's another easy piece, and then piece the whole thing together. So just a couple other thoughts, but hard thing first, easy thing first. And then the next one is the whole concept of what I call fill the reservoir. I think for us as writers, often we can't write because we don't have enough ideas. We don't have the content solidified in our mind. And a lot of that is simply because we haven't done the necessary research that's required to write that book. Now, if you're writing memoir, that might be, talking to people. It might be going through letters. It might be going back, looking through diaries, or, schedules or things like that to get dates right and all what that might be. It might be, writing that timeline of your life. And then you've got all those pieces there that can begin to connect with one another. But in nonfiction, really the ideas for our books should come out of our study of God's word. And so if we don't have the ideas, we can't write. So I think I've talked, many different times about my yellow pad, my sophisticated yellow pad method, where I sit with my Bible open. I know the text that I believe God's asked me to examine. And then I sit there with a yellow pad and I just start taking notes. I just bullet ideas. I'll just study there and ask God, show me what you would have me write. Show me what would encourage someone else. I know my experience and I can write about that. But our experience shouldn't necessarily drive the book. Our experience should not drive the content of the book. God's word should be driving the content of our book, whether we're writing Christian living, a devotional book, a Bible study, even gift book kinds of products. All of those kinds of books should be driven by the content coming out of God's word. So I highly recommend that you fill the reservoir, that you do the research that you need to do. God's word is so rich. There is so much there. Even today, I was reading in Second Corinthians. I'm toward the end of Second Corinthians now, and I came upon some scriptures. I should have had my Bible open to tell you about that, but I'm like, oh, I've never seen that before. It's just astounding to me that every day I can open up God's word and see something new, something fresh. So fill the reservoir, and then you can write. Another technique is simply to outline it. Get yourself a really, really good outline so that you know where you're going, not only from chapter to chapter, but from piece to piece, from heading to heading in your book. And have that solidly lined out with what scripture you're going to go to, what are going to be the major teaching points there. So it's not like you're having to work from ground zero all the time. If you have a solid outline, then that can really drive your content and help you create. And the last idea is simply, the concept of a blended style of any of this, a mix of any of these earlier sort of writing groove teachings that I've given you could work for you. Whatever you need for that moment, for that particular writing season, for that chapter. Maybe you have a deadline with your publisher to finish a project by a certain date. So use that strategy of goal setting. But then later on, you want to start up a project. So you use that the carrot approach. You find that you're getting too distracted by so many wonderful things out there in your world that are happening, and you have a hard time saying no to people, all those important people in your life. And so you can use that carrot approach where you think, no, I'm going to finish this, and then I can go do such and such. And if you commit to someone, like maybe you have a cousin who's going to visit in a couple weeks, and so it is so important to get together with that special person that creates that desire in you to complete the work that you need to get done. Try different kinds of techniques. Use your calendar, use your phone app to time writing sessions, all those kinds of things. That's a really kind of a helpful device that all of us have available to us. So one writer said that she uses Google Calendar to schedule her writing times, but she doesn't necessarily hold that. She doesn't set that in stone. And many times she'll find that she'll write something short as soon as it pops into her head, because if she waits until that scheduled time, it's gone, or she loses momentum if she waits until that scheduled time. So even the other night, when I was thinking through this presentation, I was in bed. I'd gotten my 3 different pillows all into their right places. And then I thought, oh, let me add these. And so I came several new ideas to add to this presentation came to mind. So I told my husband, I have to get up. I've got to go write this down so I don't forget. You might have those kind of writing moments, especially if you're writing fiction or you're writing that memoir, and then a certain scene comes to mind and you need to get it down. Don't be so set in stone with your writing schedule that that you begin to kind of lose some of those nuggets that you otherwise could put down. And then another writer says that she maps out goals through a spreadsheet. Okay, so she uses like a spreadsheet and then has all the pieces there that she needs, the scriptures and the main points that she's going to make. And so she's got that document that she can fall back on. Another writer I know uses a bullet journal, and she puts those writing goals right into the day. So you put in a bullet journal, it's a blank journal that only has bullets in it. And so you put your day on there for that. So today would be December 2nd. And so I would put the appointments that I had. So this presentation would be one of my appointments. I have another appointment coming up. We had to take the car to the shop. All those things would be written down. But then I had another goal of creating the next PowerPoint for Book Marketing Pro Academy. So I wrote that in there as well to finish that. I had started it. So that might be your goal, might be to write 2 segments of your chapter that day. And that I think is a really good tool. And what I found in the years that I have used the bullet journals, that I got tired of carrying over my goals to the next day because I didn't get it done, and then carrying it to the next day because I didn't get it done. So I found like that the bullet journal became like my supervisor. Kind of a weird head game, but it was like my supervisor telling me what I had to do that day. So I became my own boss. So that might work for you as well, using that kind of a tool. You could do that with a spreadsheet. You could do that, with a phone calendar. You could do that with an actual literal paper bullet journal. And if you go, Amazon has them. You just type in bullet journal, and the first one that probably comes up is the one that is designed specifically for bullet journaling. And then on YouTube, when you do a search on bullet journal, you'll find that 4 minute there's a 4-minute video to watch that explains the concept of that. It's super, super helpful for establishing goals. So those are a whole bunch of ideas, 11 different ways to kind of help you think about approaching a way to kind of explore what works best for you in terms of finding your best writing groove. So I'm going to go over to see if we have a few people watching live today, which is great. And if you have any particular questions for me, I can hang in here for a couple minutes to see if you want to plop a comment in here, and then I can answer your questions. Okay. Any questions or comments? Well, if you think of something later, you know that you can always go to the Book Marketing Pro Academy Facebook group page, and you can plop it there. Make sure that you tag me, and I will be happy to help you with that. So blessings on your day. Thank you.